Hello YouTube, it's me, I'm back. Today I'm doing a video which is part one of exposing the YouTuber known as Roundsaturnseye, aka Rise channel, and the person behind those channels is a guy called David Bass. I'm not attacking the person. What I'm attacking or trying to put straight on this channel is the ideology, right? And my channel is about exposing as well the right-wing media. So this is part one. We're going to be discussing a few basic symbols from geometry that David is obsessed about on his channel, and the teachings that he teaches on his channel about these symbols. That's the main focus today, part one. There's going to be several parts to this series. We're going to be covering the ideology of the white Christian nationalist networks in the USA and in the UK, and how that links into right-wing politics like Reform Party, and also how that all links in to a wider global network involving Christian TV networks, powerful right-wing interests in the States and globally, because it all ties in to a bigger umbrella of disinformation networks that tie into the Kremlin. So hope you enjoy this part one, and thanks for watching. Thank you for watching.
Is representing all of those things, which is Antichrist. Now we go on to the feminist propaganda. She's wearing red again. She's playing a revolutionary figure. You see, these are all women. This is the feminist propaganda.
Well, yeah, it's an ad on TV for a woman's perfume from a company invented by a woman. So David Bass has done a video about this Coco Chanel perfume, and the satanic symbolism. So we're going to debunk that. And so Coco Chanel, right? She was a woman, a French designer, right? So that the advert that we're discussing is for a perfume for women, right? And it comes from a company that was developed by a woman. So yes, it's gonna have, it has a feminine theme, right? A woman who owned a company in women's fashion, right? From France, right? Let's just make that clear. And so here we have the logo of the company, right? Two interlocking C's. Well, yeah, obviously, right? It's a logo, right? And the company has two C's in it. And so why not? That this would be an obvious style of logo to choose, right? If you had two C's in your name, that would be the go-to to use, right? So, I don't want to get a, copyright strike. So I won't show too much of the rundown from David Bass, but his basic themes are about this advert for women's perfume from someone from France, Coco Chanel. He's talking about eye symbolism. Then he's talking about lady in red symbolism and revolutionary symbolism. And then he's talking about the Coco Chanel symbol, the logo of the two C's that make sort of a stylized Vesica Pisces. So, these I'm going to be doing this over a few videos, so if we don't run through everything today, that will be coming in future videos. We're going to be mainly talking about the symbolism of the Vesica Pisces. This what keeps happening in this video, for the sake of me not showing you, because I don't want to get copyright strikes, is the eye symbolisms used in this ad, because it's in their logo. They've got a Vesica Pisces in their logo. So in this flag that she's waving now, that's the Vesica Pisces logo. That's Coco Chanel. And then you've got the woman here in red. The company's from Paris, so you know it's a sort of a reference to the French Revolution, right? France. Yeah. So David suggests to his audience, and actually doesn't suggest to his audience. David Bass categorically tells you this symbol is satanic or of the devil. And, you know, I think this is to tie into OCD and possibly something worse than OCD. It could be the sign of schizophrenia if you're, you know, it's an obsession, isn't it? Look, if you believe in Satanism and you believe in the power of symbols, I'm not denying that you might use, I don't know, you know, a Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces is a natural symbol in mathematics, and it's about two circles. Now, here's the thing from the patriarchy and the church, right? And especially white Christian nationalism. It is a patriarchy. So any symbol that might be a loose reference to the power of a woman, well, the church considers that heresy and frowns upon it, right? Because of the patriarchic hierarchical system of certain Christian groups. An interesting story about the vagina, right? The word vagina comes from the Romans, right? And it means, it's a holster for a sword, right? So the word vagina we use, right? But that's a patriarchic word from the Romans of, you know, putting your sword into a sheath. Hence we have the word vagina. Do you know what the word cunt used to mean? Well, it used to mean good, the feminine, and the power of the feminine, right? Cunt used to be, but they've switched it around, and so, you know, with the patriarchy has made what used to be a good word about the female yoni, and you know, we use the word vagina, which is a kickback to the Romans, and it means a sheath for your sword. So, you know, many Christians get disturbed by the Vesica Pisces because of its obvious connotations to the feminine. And yes, it sort of looks like a yoni, right? I won't use the C word. But here's the thing, right? It is a symbol that's been used for thousands of years. But this symbol, not this symbol with two C's, but what David is, as a Christian, and through the Christian lens, David Bass is portraying this to be a satanic symbol, right? Well, I'm going to tell you about the mathematics and the geometry of this symbol. Right, so here we have the Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces is a mathematical, geometrical symbol, and it's about two circles. And it's been a curiosity for thousands of years because of the information that's contained with it. And the information is about ratios and proportions, right? So the fish shape that's made in the Vesica Pisces has many names. The fish vessel, the Piscean vessel, There are many other names. We'll stick with Vesica Pisces, right? The early Christians used to use a Vesica Pisces symbol to communicate with each other. One name of the symbol is called, it was known as a womb, right? Not a vagina, but yeah, right. It sort of looks like a vagina if you wanted to, if you look at it from the right way. But look, we're talking about the mathematical information contained in the vesicle Pisces, in the vessel. The Vesica Pisces is a type of lens, but it's not a demonic portal, right? It's a mathematical lens. And that lens is like, it represents the relationships and proportions in geometry that lead from the 2-dimension into the 3-dimension. And that is about the mathematical proportions in the basic polygons. And so those basic polygons are 2-dimensional on the plane shapes that lead into the 3rd dimension, which is solid Platonic, solid Euclidean geometry. And it's just about mathematical, geometrical information that's central to arts such as music and architecture and other branches that you know, and measure, like another one, and crucial one is, you know, measurement. It's geometry. Geometry means earth measure, and you know, there are other aspects of measure that come from the proportions of the human body, and you know, there are geometrical relationships between the basic geometrical shapes and proportions and ratios in the human body, and there's nothing satanic about it. And so the branches of study are architecture, sculpture, the arts. It's everywhere. This geometrical information is everywhere, and it all stems and unfolds from, you know, the Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces is the first stage that gives us some of the first basic ratios, like the square root 2 ratio, the square root 3 ratio, and the square root 5 ratio. That was one of the nicknames for it, the fish vessel, right? It's, in geometry, it's known as like the geometrical womb. And it's what the first basic stage in geometry, right? Naturally, you know, you make a circle first of all, right, in geometry, but that, you know, it's a natural development to make 2 circles. It's just geometry, right? But that's so the conjoining of 2 circles of the same size intersecting at the center point of the adjoining circle creates a mathematical relationship that's very important to geometry, and it's always been known by architects and mathematicians, and it has been considered sacred because of its mathematical principles that come from it. Now, the first most obvious proportion is known as the square root 3 ratio. And that geometry has to do with the number 3 and the equilateral triangle as well. We'll get onto that. But what's the first shape you can develop from the fish-like shape at the center of the Vesica Pisces is the equilateral triangle. In fact, it's a rhombus, first of all, with straight lines. If you were to draw a straight line from the point to the middle, no, to the point to the width, you do four lines, and you create a rhombus. That rhombus is two equilateral triangles, and that's always been known. It's been known for a very long time, since we were playing around in the sand with a stick or a compass. It's very important in art, architecture, geometry. It's one of the pivotal shapes to geometry. It leads to the first polygon, which is the first major polygon of an equilateral triangle. The reason that it's so important is because of that. That's why you see it in churches. That's why you see iconic figures in the middle. It's and there's polymathematical information to gain and understand from this shape, and then its development into further plane geometry. There are many geometrical allegories in the Bible. That's not to say that the teachings of the Gospels aren't right. I'm not opposing the teachings of the Gospels. What I in my channel, I'm sharing knowledge of there are geometrical allegories throughout the Bible. There are many, from Genesis to the vision of two trees and the vision of the temple, St. John's vision of the New Jerusalem. There are many geometrical allegories in the Bible, and there are the numbers, like the 12 tribes, like the 7 gates. There are many geometrical references throughout the Bible, and the story of Jesus catching in the boat the fishes, the 153 fishes, is a geometrical allegory. And that information is contained. It's an allegory to the information contained in the Vesica Pisces. There's nothing satanic about the Vesica Pisces. So David Bass is lying to you. Maybe David Bass is lying to himself. We can all be deceived. There are lots of mystery schools and occultic groups. And yes, some of them worship these symbols. But there's mathematical information to do with these symbols. Why do you think they're in the great buildings sometimes? Because the geometrical, mathematical ratios and proportions are central to the knowledge of architecture. Architecture, right? The builders of the temples had the knowledge. Jesus had this knowledge. Why do you think that Jesus was called the fisher of men? Why do you think Jesus is often portrayed in a Vesica Pisces? And what's so wrong with a symbol that has, some polymathematical imagery and symbology that represents the feminine of creation? And that's what's known by people with knowledge about numbers and shapes and geometry. That numbers and shapes are active. They're positive and negative, and they're part of God's creation. And unfortunately, for people like David Bass, that means accepting duality, the concept of duality in God's creation that he made, or it made. What God made is a duality, and the geometry is the mathematical information that underlies creation. And there's nothing satanic about it.
We'll measure weights in pounds, and that 2,000 pounds shall be called a ton.
And what will 1,000 pounds be called, sir?
Nothing. Because we will have no word for that.
Seems like we should have a word for 1,000 pounds, sir.
And yet we won't. Because we are free men. And we will be free to measure liquids in liters and milliliters. But not all liquids, only soda, wine, and alcohol.
Only those, sir.
Yes. Because for milk and paint, we will use gallons, pints, and quarts, God will.
And how many liters are in a gallon, sir?
Nobody knows.
And, sir, in this new country, what plans are there for men of color such as I?
Distance will be measured in inches, feet, yard, and mile. So 12 inches to a foot?
12 feet to a yard.
If it were only so simple. 3 feet to a yard.
And how many yards to a mile?
Nobody knows.
Okay, well, how many feet to a mile?
5,280, of course. It's a simple number that everyone will remember.
Let's confess, it feels a little complicated, sir. Why not use meters and kilometers?
We will, soldier. But only in certain unpopular sports like track and swimming. For popular sports like football, we will use yards.
Football, sir?
Yes. It's a sport where you throw a ball with your hands.
So in football, there is no kicking?
There's a little kicking. You kick the ball to get points.
How many points, sir?
Sometimes 1 and sometimes 3.
Very confused, sir.
Do not worry. For our new nation, we will have rulers with 2 sets of numbers. Inches on one side, centimeters on the other.
So we can see where they line up.
Yes, except that they don't line up and they never will.
Why?
Liberty, son, liberty.
And the slaves, sir, what of them?
You asked about the temperature.
I did not.
We shall have 2 different unrelated scales of temperature. One of them will make sense to the entire world, and the other will be super random. Our great nation will use the random one.
What is the scale called, sir?
Fahrenheit.
Spell that for me.
Impossible. But one day, if we are brave, we will get rid of the U and a lot of British words like color and armor. But by God, we will keep the British U and the word glamour.
Only glamour, sir?
Only glamour. That is my dream for our countrymen. A melting pot of different measurements that will make Europeans throw little tantrums. In short, a land of liberty.
Where all men are free.